Welcome, college basketball fans, to the Full Court Press Podcast with LT and Sammy D. This is the podcast that brings you legendary stories from college basketball's golden era and dives in deep with a current analysis of today's game. Get ready for the most energetic and entertaining college basketball podcast around. Let's get it.
Hello and welcome to another Full Court Press Podcast, a college basketball experience. Luke Taylor here. Sam is out today, unfortunately. But as we say, the show will go on. If you love the podcast, you like the podcast, and honestly, you want to keep us going, which I know is surprising and shocking because my kids and wife don't care or listen for that matter, give us a 5-star review on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or follow us on YouTube if you're watching us. So I'm really excited about this next preview show. We've done a ton, and I've been excited about all of them, but this one in particular. So we got two great coaches. We got Dustin Kerns from App State, a former guest and back again. So he obviously liked it the first time. And we're going down to South Alabama with Richie Riley, coach of the Jaguars. Welcome to the Full Court Press Podcast.
Great to be on here.
Yeah, excited. I appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, all I care about is what kind of name is Sunbelt?
I don't know. I just know that the Sunbelt, just hearing the word Sunbelt gets me a little anxious. I can tell you right now, I'm way far from thinking about Sunbelt play. Our league I think it's the best league, one-bid league in the country. I really do. I mean, this is a tremendous league, tremendous coaches, tremendous players, and I'm glad we're not starting Sunbelt play for a long time.
Yeah, I would agree. I would agree with that for sure. The name Sunbelt, I think Cliff Ellis was one of the guys that helped originate the Sunbelt. My old boss, he could probably get on here and tell you where the name came from. But I feel the same way that Dustin does. It's just, I mean, this league, it's the toughest one-bid league in the country. It's been like that, but it's gotten even harder with 14 teams. I mean, when you got this many quality teams, great coaches, great players, and only one of us get to go to the NCAA tournament, and it makes it really tough.
Yeah. And I thought last year, if we just kind of look at last year's with James Madison, I was really hopeful that it would be a multiple bid league. And honestly, if you look at these teams, I mean, you guys, App State, James Madison, Troy, Arkansas State is going to be scary this year. Bobby Marlin at the Raging Canes, Louisiana is always tough. Southern Mississippi, I mean, even Georgia State's getting better. Texas State, Marshall, I mean, the list goes on. Old Dominion's a basketball school. This is where I really don't consider you guys mid-major. I think you're more high major than mid, like more in that sense. But unfortunately, the NCAA selection committee doesn't agree with me or anything I say. But, interesting offseason. I mean, was there even really an offseason for you guys anymore?
No, there wasn't. And certainly I think the calendars for coaches and players is, it's just year-round now. But, our league, you talk about South Alabama the year before going to the championship game. Our league is just so competitive. But there's no nights off. There's no days off in the summer. Really, very few. And that's just the kind of the profession right now. The profession continues to evolve and change, and us coaches have to adjust. But I was just supposed to tell Richie, I bet Cliff Ellis is still getting royalties on that Sunbelt logo. He's getting some sort of kickback somewhere on that Sunbelt logo idea.
There's no doubt. If there's a way to get a kickback, he's figured it out, and there probably is on that. That's for sure. No, with the time off, I mean, it's way different than it used to be. I mean, me and DK both have been coaching long enough. We were assistants back in the day at different levels, and been head coaches now for about the same amount of time. I guess I'm going into year 9 as being a head coach. But it used to be, man, in the summer you had these days of you were going to be out. You could only have a certain amount of guys on the road. So sometimes you get a day off, might play a little golf, then you're back on the next day out in Vegas or somewhere. But it was like 10-day windows or something. And then you were at home for a while or with your team. Now it's not like that. It's just it's sporadic. And then when you throw in the transfer portal and NIL, for us anyway, our recruiting lasts longer now because we're waiting to see who's got the money, who's going to spend it. We ain't got nothing, so we're trying to see what we're going to be able to get. And it's just a waiting game, so it stretches out. So the time off it's not quite like it used to be.
Yeah, you're the first coach that has brought up the transfer portal and NIL in probably 78 episodes. So maybe we can talk more about it. But it's ever changing. I think the biggest thing not complaint, but biggest topic we've talked about, especially in the mid-major level, is scheduling. You guys are a really strong conference. You've got the MAC challenge, which I think adds some value. It's a home and away game every year, and you play some quality opponents. But tell kind of just share with us a little bit how difficult scheduling was this last summer.
Yeah, Luke, I tell you, I think our league is at the point we're kind of in that tough spot, right? We're not, our league is not, it's hard to get home games. I guess the easiest way I'll describe it is no one's really calling the Sun Belt. Like Richie will probably tell you, like our phones just don't, like we're the ones making the calls. Mm-hmm. Hey, can you guys play? Hey, what about your tournament? Like we're not getting a lot of calls from ESPN saying, hey, you want to be at our tournament? Hey,
you got a call from the Full Court Network.
We did get that phone call. We're appreciative of that.
Thanks for answering.
But I just don't think our entire league is getting those calls. Hey, would you play this team in the neutral site? We're the ones trying to kind of come up with those ideas and come up with those games. And so obviously we all want home games. We've all been pretty good at home. So I just think scheduling has really became an unnecessary challenge for all of us.
Well, let me ask you this. How does the Sun Belt and the coaches change that narrative? Do you just continue to keep winning? I mean, how do you change that narrative? I mean, I understand the ESPN animal and stuff like that, but how do you kind of change that narrative within your own conference and your own programs?
Yeah, I'll just say, and I'll let Richie answer. Like, I just think that one, yeah, we keep winning, but two, just getting on television more, different networks. Maybe it's CBS College Sports, maybe it's ESPNU more. But I think the more and more our league gets on television, and like Richie had Alabama at home. We've been there hasn't been a ton of Sun Belt schools being able to get some of those teams to come to us, but Richie and I, we're two of the schools that have been able to do that. But like, you get those games on television, and now more and more schools see it on television. Like, hey, like let's reach out to those guys. I just think that more and more exposure will help us get more and more of those games.
Scheduling's real hard when you win 1 million games like you did last year and beat Auburn. I guarantee there ain't nobody calling you. It's real hard. It's real hard. It goes like that too when you have a really good team. I know the transfer portal hits you a little bit with your guys, but still you won. I mean, you were one of the best mid-major teams in the country last year, so nobody wants to play you. And they definitely don't want to go to Boone and play. I mean, after Auburn comes in there and you beat them. And that's what we run into is it's so hard to get home games. It's so hard to get home games because, number one, at the Power 5 level, you got so much money to buy. So you're just buying basically should be 8, 9 wins. And we don't have the luxury of doing that. So we're trying to set up, home and homes, and people willing to play us home and home are really good. Like you're looking at, really good SoCon teams like a Samford or a Furman or somebody like that. And it's just hard to, the Power 5 is kind of continuing to monopolize everything in a way where they get, 11, 12 teams. It's going to be where they get like 11 or 12 teams in the NCAA tournament. So
the SEC next year will get everybody in the conference and the tournament. You bet your money on that.
There's no question. There's no question. So So what does that mean for us in the Sun Belt? I don't know what we can do to change that narrative. I think it's hard. I think we just got to keep playing quality basketball like the year that App had last year, that these guys had, and the year that Mark had at JMU. And I mean, we got to at least have 2 or 3 teams that kind of have those type of years to keep our league moving in the right direction.
Yeah, but I think if you really look at the Sun Belt, it's a really good basketball league, really good coaches. I mean, you can go from Marshall, from Cornelius Jackson to you guys, to Jonas Hayes at Georgia State. We just had him on the podcast. Bobby Marlin. I mean, Brian Hodgson, what he did at Arkansas State the first year. And I mean, his recruiting class is scary. And then you got like Scott Cross at Troy. So you got good coaches, okay? But you even have, like, no offense, better players. I mean, Coach, what you did last year with Spillers, I mean, I know he left and I was pissed, and I do not send him any threats on Instagram, but I was disappointed he didn't come back.
It's all good, man. He's getting a nice little check, and he's
but you can't, right? And you can't fault him that. But you brought back CJ, you brought back Miles Tate. I mean, I got Jackson Threadgill coming in who is our starter at Charlotte. You got Jamil, who's at Kilgore College. Coach Richie, you lost a couple players, but you have Brian Dunning Jr., who's a 2-time Gatorade Alabama Player of the Year. I mean, I look at these guys. He played at UAB in Arkansas. You come to a South Alabama, maybe you live up to the potential. I'm not saying he hasn't, but you get opportunities, because at the end of the day, I mean, and multiple coaches have said this, you can get all the money in the world, but if you're sitting on the bench, how is they good? I think Sunbelt, you got a lot of opportunities right there.
Yeah, I agree. I think it, we have to find our niche, and I feel like we're kind of doing that. We've had to recreate, kind of what we do. When I first got here, we had SEC transfers that started a bunch of games and averaged close to double figures, and their rosters kind of look like that. But we've kind of had to restructure things because financially we can't do that anymore with with the way NIL works. So we got Barry Dunning to come back home, which is good. We recruited him 3 times. 3rd time was a charm. And it is like we have guys on our roster that are hungry to play, whether it's a Barry Dunning who didn't get to play as much as he'd like to at those other 2 places, or it's guys from the NAI level that are hungry to, transfer up and show that they belong at this level.
And the perfect example is you look at Riley Minix. I mean, he was an NAA player in Florida, went to a Morehead State. Shit, he's playing for the Spurs.
I need one of those guys to be him. That would be ideal. I need one of those guys to kind of do what he did at Morehead. That would be awesome.
Yeah. So let's talk about some fun stuff. So last year, App State was top of the league. James Madison was just behind him. What do you guys see from the league this year? I mean, you've got some returning players at both your programs. Louisiana's bringing back the big guy from England. Kentrell Garrett's come back. Troy brings back Miles Rigsby. I mean, Arkansas State, they get Kobe Julian, who is a leading scorer from Louisiana. Then Georgia State, I don't know if you know Zareek Nutter from NIU. He's a ball player, and they're also bringing back Lane. Kind of talk about what your expectations for the conference is upcoming.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how Richie feels. During the off season, I intentionally try to not pay a lot of attention to other people in the Sun Belt because it makes me really anxious, because I know they're going to be good. Everybody's going to be good. Everybody's going to get good players. And so it's like, I know at the end of the day what it's going to be. But if my staff, hey, they got this guy. I'm like, oh, gosh. Like, whoa. At the end of the day,
hey, Coach Richie, this might be a therapy session, so you might want to go get lunch and come back.
At the end of the day, I know South Alabama is going to be good.
Yeah.
Like, I know X number of teams going to be good. And that's just the way the Sun Belt is. And so I think the number is 83 transfers that left the Sun Belt, right? I do know that number. And so I know a lot of those guys were good players. And so I just think we probably all got a lot of new guys, at least probably 5 or 6, right? But like, my sleep goes way down when Sunbelt play starts, so I intentionally kind of don't pay attention to it until I have to.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of unknowns. I think I think sometimes I've been picked to. We've been picked to win the league since I've been here. We've been picked 9th or 10th since I've been here. It's you just don't know. With the transfers the way they are, you really don't know. I've had some guys back before NIL. I've had Power 5 guys come in here that were averaging 15 a game, and they end up averaging 2 points a game for me. I think sometimes we get caught up in this guy's supposed to be really good on a roster.
Mm-hmm.
He's supposed to be, and it doesn't always work out like that. Or you have a guy that, DK had a kid that took him to the NCAA tournament. It was a D2 transfer that went to the Sun Belt tournament, went bonkers, looked like Steph Curry. And I had a kid that took me to the finals that nobody knew who he was, a D2 kid. That this time of year, nobody even knew who he was, and he ended up being arguably the best guard in the league.
Woo, he was good. Woo.
So you don't, I think you don't know. I always say this. People ask, like, how are you guys? I say we're working really hard at it. I don't think we're getting any worse, but you don't know. You don't know how good you are till you start playing other people. I really believe that. You don't know. There's so many great coaches in our league, and again, really good players. So you don't really know till you tip it up against somebody else how good you are.
We were talking to I think it was one of the SWAC coaches recently, and we were talking about, they brought out the preseason rankings and the preseason player of the years, and they were kind of laughing off air. It's like, it's a crapshoot. Before it was, preseason rankings is who's returning, but the problem is since there's so many new players, like it's like throwing darts against a wall, right? Preseason player of the year. Like you said, you had 2 players that went off and could have easily been that, and no one knew them. So, but the one thing is, and the one thing I will tell you is, with a lot of mid-major programs, all of them, it comes down to a weekend in March, and it's unfortunate because your body of work is not being calculated properly and rewarded. So you just never know, right? Anybody, as long as you're not last place, you might have a chance to win.
There's no question. And here's what's crazy about college basketball. I say this all the time. And some people, like, it might make them mad a little bit. And I don't really care. I've gotten a little older now. I don't really care. But college basketball is like no other sport, in the fact that we have one team go to the NCAA tournament. That team is honored and put on a pedestal. And there's so many teams that had unbelievable years that there is nothing for them. In football, if you win 6 games, you go to a bowl. Everybody basically goes to a bowl, and then you celebrate like it's a Super Bowl. Like, it could be a bowl, doesn't matter.
And no one watches it. That's the funny part.
There's extensions, there's everything. If you just win 6. I said last year, it was the worst year we've had. Won 16 games since I've been here. We went 16. Mm-hmm. I said, but we were bowl eligible again. If it was football, then I'm getting my contract rolled over. Everybody's getting a bonus. But it's like that in all of them. Baseball, somebody had 4 teams go to the NCAA tournament. And every sport is kind of like that. But
so let me ask you this. Do you think they should expand the NCAA tournament?
It wouldn't matter for us. We'd still be the one bid league. Then they would let every Power 5 team would play in the NCAA tournament.
The only way I would have a non-issue with them expanding is if a handful of conferences like the Sun Belt got an automatic bid for the regular season champion, which would have been App State, and a tournament champion. So you get 2 bids. Now, does that mean you have to let in 156 schools? I would hope not, but that's the only way I would be in favor of expanding the tournament, if it rewarded like the Missouri Valley, the Sun Belt, and some of these other conferences, because now you're rewarding a body of work over 18 games, and then you're rewarding a body of work over 3-4 days, and everybody's happy. But the fans love the mid-major upsets. I guess the powers that be do not. So I
would be okay. I think I would be okay with if it went to like 74 or something. Like, you had another play-in on the quote. You had maybe 4 more play-in games, or I don't know, right? I guess it would be 72 teams. I also think it's just, you got to protect we all want to get in there, right? But you got to, that's what makes it so special, but Richie's right. Like, we can expand it. Now we'll see how college athletics, it changes every day, right?
Yeah.
We'll see.
Conference realignment. Holy cow.
On our phone in the next 3 weeks, as far as does some of that naturally happen? It's kind of what you got 126 football BS teams or whatever. Does that kind of gravitate towards basketball? And there's a certain membership you got to quote be eligible. I don't know, right? I'm just throwing stuff at it, but it might change organically.
Hey, I brought up football. What about my man Major just strolling up into Boone last week, baby? Put on that air raid. We look like the Kansas City Chiefs. I know you're in attendance watching it.
I was there. And just like we'll bounce back this week. We got Liberty at home. We'll bounce back, and we'll be right back.
It was awesome.
We'll be right back in Kid Brewer Stadium Saturday at 3:30, supporting on our team again. But man, you guys looked really good. Wow.
I know. I'm glad they went in there and did that, and I'm also glad I don't have to go to Boone this year. So it was an unbelievable. It was unbelievable for them, man, because we started off rough and they kind of started to get it rolling a little bit, which is great. I do think this, though, talking about the NCAA tournament, I think one thing that I've said this for years, it needs to be changed, is if you have a losing conference record, you should not be able to go to the NCAA tournament. That should be a thing, and I don't care how hard your league is. I get it.
It's all relative, right? It's all relative.
It's all relative. If you have a losing conference record, unless you win the conference tournament, then that goes out the window.
Yeah.
But if you have a losing, you can't get a bid. I mean, it's just there's too many teams that they figured out the scheduling metrics in the non-con, and they're able to stack up all these wins. And they run their net up that way with margin of victory. And then they get in the league and they go 7-11. You look at them, they're a 6 seed. And it's just, to me, that is where we need to change it to add more.
Send them to the play-in game, baby. Send them to the play-in game.
Yeah, or do that. I mean, it's just
whatever it is.
To me, that part has gotten out of hand. I mean, because it is, like you said, it's all relative.
Yeah. Well, let's not save the world problems or figure out the world problems today. So we do a little thing called the shot clock. Coach Kerns is used to this. We're going to do it all kind of relative to the Sun Belt Conference. So just, one answer just comes up your mind. If it leads to a story, have at it. Okay. So I want both of you guys to answer this. One word to describe the Sun Belt Conference in basketball.
Brutal.
Yeah. Relentless.
Ooh, brutally relentless. I like that. Toughest place to play in the Sun Belt.
For us, it's Troy.
I would agree with that. We only won there one time.
Yeah. Is it just the crowds, the gym, just everything adds it into kind of a miserable experience?
It's a huge rivalry for us. That's our rival. So it's
right.
When we go down there, and same thing when they come up here. I mean, it's our biggest crowd of the year. So for us, it's probably that.
Yeah. Is there anywhere you guys like to go play at?
No.
Nowhere I look forward to it. Yeah, sometimes during the winter months here, we like to come off the mountain and maybe getting some sunshine and things like that. But there's nowhere I'm looking forward to going now.
Yeah. And I've never been to Boone when it's not snowed either. Every year that I've ever been there, we had to spend a weekend there when we had the COVID scheduling, and it snowed the whole time. It was freezing, man. Like we played 2 games in like 24 hours against each other in the COVID scheduling, and we were in Boone for like 3 days.
Look, I've been in the Sun Belt 5 years. We came to Mobile all 5 years. Thank goodness my wish was granted. We do not play South Alabama this year, especially in Mobile. It's always
we don't want to play you guys either. So it worked out good for all of us.
I'm going to miss the Mobile Marriott this year. I know the people there by name.
The official travel hotel of App State men's basketball, Mobile Marriott.
Nice property.
Right. What's that?
It's a nice hotel.
Oh yeah. They've got. What do you think about white barbecue sauce? That's an Alabama specialty.
Yeah, when we go there, we always eat at Walk-Ons, which we always like. There's a wing place right near Richie's campus. Is it Voodoo
Yep, Voodoo Wings.
Wings? Man,
Ooh, I've had Voodoo Wings before. They're
that
good.
guy's got some incredible wings. So
Yeah.
we get into the local market there.
Yeah, I've played a little golf down at Alabama, the Robert Trent Jones Trail, so I know Alabama a little bit. Who would you say is the best dressed coach in your conference? Who has the best shoe game, and then who's most animated on the sideline?
Best dressed.
Best dressed.
Does anybody still wear a suit?
I wear a coat at home. And I think me and Coach Cross do that. Used to be Coach Ellis. Coach Ellis would still go
100% used to be Coach Ellis.
But I think everybody else is kind of dressed down. As far as shoe game, probably Coach Hayes at Georgia State. I don't pay a lot of attention to the shoes, but I think that I remember.
I would agree with that. I like Coach Richard coaches in a fishing shirt sometimes. I really like that. I think I may do that some. I really like that. You know, he's down there in Monroe. He coaches with that fishing shirt sometimes. I like that.
What was the last question?
Who is the most animated of the coaches on the sideline? You don't have to look down too far to see that.
Yeah, I would.
We've had some guys. I think everybody shared their own moments. I watched DK kick a square out of his scores table one night when I was coaching against him.
I've got 5 techs and 7 years head coach, and one of them was against South Alabama at home. Yep.
Okay.
I got a floor burn on my forehead one night at Georgia State, scraping across the floor after one of my guys turned it over right in front of me in a crucial moment. I think a lot of guys. I think Hodgkinson gets the crowd up more than anybody else. He likes to get the crowd up. He's a hype man.
He's a showman. Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
But I don't know. I think
you could ejections. I don't know. Maybe I've seen Coach Cross, Coach Barling, I think, get ejected. I don't know about other than that.
Charlie got ejected at our place last year. It's a weak ejection, though, man. We laughed about it after back in the hallway. I was like, dude, they had a short leash, man. They threw him out so quick. I don't know what was going on.
Okay, well, this should lead into another great question. Who would you say is the best Sun Belt Conference official?
Ooh, we've got a lot of good ones, and I will say, because we're in the SEC Alliance, so we get a lot of guys. I mean, like we've had guys that are in the Final Four and Sweet 16, and so I'm going to remain nameless. But like I will say this, like I just think there's a lot of nights we get a lot of good ones.
Yeah.
I'm definitely remaining nameless because if I name a guy and Tony gets a hold of this, and that guy won't ever officiate another game for me. Every time they ask us for our rankings, and you put out your rankings, top 3 or 4 guys that they ask for, and then I feel like I don't ever get those guys again. So,
have we done this year, by the way?
What'd you say?
Have we sent those in this year, by the way?
They haven't asked for them yet, but when they do.
Right. Yeah.
It's like opposite day. You need to send in the 4 that you dislike, and then keep them away from you.
So this should lead to the next. This is a little trivia, Sunbelt trivia. Which conference team led the conference in most fouls called per game? So which team in your conference committed the most fouls last year that were called?
I would have 2 guesses.
Okay.
My guesses would be Texas State or Troy.
I would say Troy or Southern Miss.
Nope. Georgia Southern, 20.1.
Really?
Yeah. Who had the least amount of fouls called?
South Alabama.
South of Alabama, you were 11th with 16.6. App State. You know, I liked your political answer because you were only called 13 times per game.
We were, yeah.
You were the lowest.
Well, the problem is
we've been top 5 in the country all 5 years. That's why I probably do that answer.
The problem is they didn't call the fouls. They were one of the best defensive teams in the country. We didn't foul, and we were one of the worst defensive teams in the country. That doesn't seem right. I mean, how are they getting all these stops and they don't ever foul either? I mean, come on, man.
Oh, God.
I knew we didn't foul very much because we weren't guarding anybody at all. I knew we weren't fouling very much last year.
Okay. If they did a movie about all the Sun Belt Conference coaches, okay, what would that movie be called?
Whew. I'm going to deflect that one to Coach Riley.
About all of the coaches.
Yeah, they did a movie about all the coaches. What movie would that be called?
Probably the good, the bad, the ugly, I guess. That would probably be. And I would represent the ugly, me and I don't know who else, but
or Planes, Trains, and Automobiles.
Yeah, all over the place.
Yeah,
because a lot of us are traveling. A lot of us are traveling with no charter flights. I know that we are. So
yeah,
we're busing sleeper buses, getting stuck in the airports because it's so hard to fly commercial these days. Yeah, that's probably a good one.
Yeah, there you go. So last question I'm going to have to ask you guys, and just kind of like share, what your fans, your alumni, boosters should expect from App State and South Alabama.
Yeah, I mean, I just think that hopefully we're still a work in progress. It's practice for us looks like a tractor pull right now. We've got a long way to go, but hopefully that we continue to play with a defensive identity. We play unselfish, and we play tough. I mean, I hope those things continue.
Yeah. I think for us, a group of guys that really want to be here, that are passionate about what we're doing here because they're not here for the money. We don't have that, but that's who we are. We got some guys with a chip on their shoulder that are going to play really hard. And again, are here to play for South Alabama. I think our fan base, are people that have always appreciated that. They want our guys to want to play for South Alabama and to really love our school and to have pride in that. So we got a group of guys, a lot of new faces. Like DK said, we're a work in progress for sure. We got a long way to go, but it is a team that's going to be, fun for our fans to watch, and they can really be proud of these guys, who they are and what they're trying to do.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I appreciate that. I'm excited. Sam and I are very excited for the Sun Belt Conference season, as Coach Kerns is really looking forward to it, and hopefully he doesn't think about it today or tonight or tomorrow. But Coach Riley, Coach Kerns, we really appreciate you going to stick with us. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, review, follow us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, all that other stuff. Give us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. And we'll be back probably tomorrow or next week or whenever with another conference preview show. And don't ever sleep on the Sun Belt Conference here at the Full Court Press Podcast, a college basketball experience.